Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the fourth part of the webinar series. We're going to do a quick recap, and then we're going to jump right into the final session, which is all about from policy to practical challenges and return on your investment. So today we're going to focus on the policy landscape, recapping our AI policy development, and then using our final acronym, IMPACT, as a framework for effective implementation. Again, my name is Marlee. I am a former teacher and principal, and now I'm the co-founder at Scholar Education, where we use AI to help personalize every lesson plan. Following up with why this topic is so important and why I decided to do this four-part webinar series in the first place is that there's proof that generative AI is the fastest growing or fastest adopted technology that we've ever seen in history, but there's definitely a lag with policy implementation and creation. So I shared with everyone in the past, but just to review, only 2 states, California and Tennessee, actually have laws that require school districts and schools to create policies around AI use. So only 2 states out of all of our states have actual law. Now, 26 states have recognized that it's an important topic, and they've put out guidelines, which I've put together in a document for you all. On the next slide, I'll give you this the link for that. So we're recognizing that it's a really important topic. There's not only 2 states that have requirements. So I figured what I would do is kind of break through the noise for you all and help you come up with practical ways to get started with creating a policy at your school. Again, these statistics are really, stand out to me. There's a huge adoption gap. 86% of students are showing that they're using AI, daily. 60% of teachers, and that number is growing. Up last year, when I looked at this, it was only about 30%. And then the most important for me is the 71% of employers, and that number is growing as well, prefer candidates with AI skills. So we as school leaders have to ensure that we are preparing students for the workforce, because that's what employers are looking for, and that's why this is such an important topic. I shared with everyone in the last series that I put together a document for everyone that goes over everything in the webinar series, but in greater detail. Basically, it's taking those 26 documents from the states and kind of summarizing them into actionable steps. Again, I created this with collaboration of ChatGPT, deep research. I'm being forthcoming because that's actually one of the pieces of advice that I said in my previous webinars about having a disclosure policy when teachers and students use AI. So you all have access to this document. You can make a copy, edit it, and you can find that at the bit.ly/AI in action document, or doc, should I say. Quick review of the last webinar series. The first one was the frame approach, where we talked about foundations, recognizing risks, aligning policies, managing AI implementation, and then the ethical use. And it starts with everything from creating, doing staff and teacher, staff, parent surveys, reviewing who's using, who's not, who are your early adopters, putting together an AI task force, and then start having a conversation with your AI task force about the risks. What is your current policy around FERPA and whatnot? And then how do we align AI to fit into that? The next one was the SAFE framework for K-5 implementation, and I shared differences that I've experienced while we are implementing at Scholar Education in the K-5 setting, and some of the practical insights that I've seen. And the SAFE framework was setting clear boundaries and expectations, age-appropriate AI literacy, family and teacher engagement, and then safe and accessible practices. And again, all of this can be found on that AI document. We also have recordings on our YouTube channel of all of the previous webinars as well. And then next we went over the CLEAR framework for 6 through 12 implementation. And CLEAR was clarifying AI policies, being very forthcoming about your expectation of when it's acceptable, when and when not acceptable use of AI literacy, ethical use, AI as a learning partner, and then reviewing and reinforcing policies. That is a summary of our last 3 weeks. And today we're going to be talking about, all right, shifting a little bit from policy to practical, practical advice on what are the challenges and then why even bother? Like, what is the return on investment? Because there is one. Obviously, I come from a lens of being a former teacher, a principal who's sitting in, who was sitting in the seat of the principalship when ChatGPT was being used by my students, and how, I had to deal with things that I never expected to deal with before. So there is there's challenges and risk, but there's also benefit. And as a co-founder of an AI tool, obviously I see that there's a huge benefit for students as well. So we're going to kind of tackle all of those today. And because I've already told you, I am a self-proclaimed acronym queen, we will be using an acronym today as well. It's our final acronym, and it's called IMPACT. So IMPACT is going to be the framework for what I am suggesting on successful implementation. So once you have your policy in place, now what? How do we address the challenges? How do we measure investment and return on investment? And measurement is a key here. So IMPACT is going to stand for implement AI with purpose. M is going to be manage common challenges. P, prove AI's value with data. A is adapt AI policies and practices as needed. And then C is going to be communicate all wins and lessons learned, and then track your return on investment and long-term growth. So let's start with the I in IMPACT, which is implement AI with purpose, align your AI use with policy and school goals. So I'm going to use my previous school as an example. Our mission was centered around project-based learning. And actually, one of the very first things I did with ChatGPT was I created a GPT on how to create a project-based learning unit. And this was kind of a exploration process for me, but I wanted it to be tied to something that was a core value of the school. So, and something that would be really practical for the teachers to see, what is the use case for AI? What is the value add for AI? So my first piece of advice is for you to look at your school mission. What are your goals as well? So, if your goals are to move your tier 3 kids to tier 2, and that's going to be your primary focus, I would ask your task force, how can we move those kids? How can we use AI to potentially assist us? Again, this is another tool in our toolbox. It's something new in regard to technology that we have now accessible. So ask yourself, what are our goals? What is our core values? What are our missions? And how can AI support us with that? I just went backwards. Let me go forward. So some of the things that come to mind with reviewing your, what is the value add from your school's perspective and aligning it with your purpose is things like instruction and learning. So, AI is a great use case for personalized support, tutoring. Our pilot teachers are saving on average 3 hours of tutoring time each week because our AI assistant is an on-the-spot tutor for teachers or for students and is trained on the lesson plan each day. So there's been a huge value for the teachers to have this tool for each student. It's definitely helpful for research. I mean, you can find, we could always Google things very quickly, but now adding generative AI with a search capability is making your search and research capability like 10x faster. And then also skill building. I always said there was no excuse to not be able to learn something because we had access to the internet, but now generative AI is just taking that to the next step. We can get things faster from a research perspective. So then, therefore, we're going to be able to find them and then learn them quicker from a skill building perspective as well. Teacher workload, I mean, I think this is the use case for AI in every industry is efficiency. So workload, as far as efficiency goes, there's definitely use case for AI assisted grading, lesson planning, data analytics. These are all prime examples of the way that AI can help the teachers and definitely decrease their workload. And our pilot teachers at Scholar are reporting 5 to 8 hours a week saved on administrative tasks, like I just explained. And then workforce preparation, going back to that statistic that I shared at the beginning, they're like 100%, by the time by the time a lot of these students get to graduation, employers are going to be looking for AI skills. I already have friends that are being asked, do you use ChatGPT and things and interviews? So it's already happening, and 71% are already saying they want it, but that number is climbing every day. And AI is also very helpful with problem solving. A, it can help problem solve quicker, but B, when you use AI, you're like tapping into a different type of critical thinking than we've ever had to use before, due to the prompt engineering perspective of using these tools. So these are, ways that you as a school leader need to define how do you want to use AI. Maybe, and I'm just thinking out loud and talking out loud here, but maybe you are only ready to focus on the learning and instruction. Maybe you're only ready to focus on AI literacy for students. Like, you can start in all three. It's definitely possible, but maybe you want to start in one place. Continuing with the I and impact, create a school-wide AI rollout plan that sets expectations for year one. So, you can put this literal prompt that's here into ChatGPT or any LLM that you use, Gemini, Perplexity, all of your favorites. See what it creates for you, and it's going to look probably something similar to what you see on this graph, where you have your planning and preparation, your initial implementation phase, expansion. So that would be like piloting, expanding the pilot, and then full implementation and sustainability. Moving to the M, which is manage common challenges. So address misconceptions, training gaps, ethical concerns. Make sure you're very forthcoming. In the previous series, I went over very specific details about the challenges with K-5 and the challenges with 6 through 12. AI implementation isn't going to be smooth if schools face a training gap. So, making sure you're focusing on training for your teachers is going to be really important. So some of the, common challenges, I put this all in the advice document as well. I'm sorry, my dog decided to wake up and bark, so I apologize if you hear barking in the background. But we wouldn't be Scholar Education if we didn't have dogs somewhere around. So some of the challenges is teachers lack AI training. So what can we do? Provide hands-on PD and mentorship. Students misuse and have plagiarism. Require AI disclosures and adapt assessments. Teach AI literacy. Parents worry about data privacy. Ensure that your products that you're purchasing have a really strict safety and security policy and data policy. AI tools are not accessible to all students. Look at tools that provide accessibility, but also, think about ways that they can access it inside your schools and your classrooms or libraries and things like that. Sometimes there's bias. We'll teach AI literacy and fact-checking skills and responsible AI use. And then unapproved AI tools being used. I recommended in my previous series that you have a list of approved tools. because without that use of approved tools, you're going to just need to expect that they're using any of the tools that are out there, and there could be concerns regarding, compliance and things and data security. So being really forthcoming and addressing your expectations with students and staff and even parents. P is proving AI's value with data. So I think that as educators, we're very much used to aligning everything we do with data. So I would encourage you to do the same for AI, measuring AI's impact, for your school as well. So think about things like student learning gains, teacher time saving, student engagement, personalized learning implementation, career readiness skills. These are areas where you can clearly measure what the tools that you are using have impact on. Moving to A, which is adapt AI policies and practices as needed. So as you have seen, AI is evolving very quickly. So no AI policy is going to be perfect at the launch. You're going to need to evolve. And be very forthcoming about that. Like, this is evolving quickly. We're going to need to evolve, and we're going to need to pivot. Again, I recommend a task force to help navigate this so that you have a constant feedback loop to improve your AI policies as things are evolving very quickly. This is just a graph of like the recommendations, gather feedback, adjust policies, update training, review meetings, and conduct regular policy updates. And this is just kind of a cycle of refinement when you're creating policies. With the C and impact, we're going to communicate all our wins and lessons learned. So again, I think being really transparent when you're talking about a new technology that can, people can be skeptical of, whether that's students or teachers or parents. So schools need to support parents, administrators, and the community, and be really transparent and about the wins and the things that are not working. So if we're having an issue with misuse, let's communicate that. Let's make sure that we are being very forthcoming with our stakeholders. So some action steps here, create case studies showing students learning gains with AI. I might have shared this on my last webinar, but we recently just had a case study at Scholar where we had a nonverbal autistic student who had not spoken one word the entire semester, joined Scholar Education in our pilot for semester 2, and now for the first time the teacher is getting feedback on their learning process because they're asking questions to Baxterbot. I think this is just one example of the types of case studies that you might find in your school setting that could show how AI is a valuable asset to your community. Hold AI town halls with parents to encourage them encourage them to come to events and make sure that you're forthcoming about what the goals are with those AI town halls as well. Look for teacher testimonials, student testimonials, include things in your newsletters, reports. I think this is really just has to be part of our culture for a while as school leaders. The final letter is T, which is track. All of these data points, let's make sure we're tracking and continuously evaluating like AI's financial and educational impact as we are taking on new tools. I recommended starting with pilots and choosing those pilots strategically so you can, slowly roll things out. And then, I think as school leaders, we often purchase tools because they seem really impactful. We purchase them and then they're either used and we aren't tracking whether or not they're successful or not, or they just die because nobody uses them. And I think it's important for us to be really purposeful on our tracking of how these AI tools are impacting the school setting. So action steps here: compare AI cost versus the impact. Assess how AI investments contribute to student learning and teacher workload, and then ensure AI adoption is adaptable to new technologies and kind of works in your current workflow. Some examples of metrics that you can use for your return on investment. So AI for personalized learning, we're going to want to see expected student engagement and potentially test scores increase. For workload, for teachers, we want to see more time on individualized instruction and classroom management. For AI literacy training, you're going to want to see workforce readiness and students that can graduate with competitive AI skills. And then licensed AI tools, more robust data privacy protections, and reliable long-term support. Use AI pilot data to justify the funding for each expansion for any other tool as well. So that is the impact framework. Again, AI stands for implement with purpose. M is manage common challenges and address any misconceptions. Particularly here is the training gap. And honestly, I don't think that's something new to AI in education. I think that's been the problem for ed tech for a while. We typically have like one training during pre-planning and then no follow-up training. So I would be really, forthcoming with any companies that you're considering about what types of ongoing training and how are they going to help be a partner with you on how you are, keeping up with things as they're evolving as well. I would expect that from a company. If I'm sitting in a principalship, I'm going to be expecting them to be a partner for AI adoption and kind of leading my school on my professional development. And so that's something I would definitely recommend. P is for proving AI's value with data. K is for adapting AI policies. C is for communicate your wins and your lessons learned, and then track everything, all the data that you are, collecting, and make long-term growth. I actually just attended a webinar and I thought I got some pretty good advice that I would share as well, because it aligns with this. When you are using AI tools and considering pilots and whatnot, perhaps in like your agreement or your contract that you're assigning, maybe it's outcomes based. And I think that there's going to be a movement in the ed tech world that outcomes based contracts are going to be more of an expectation. And that again goes, from my own experience, I can think of a million contracts I've signed, not a million, I'm exaggerating there. I can think of dozens of contracts that I've signed, and we were spending money and then essentially there was no promise of an outcome. So I think in the ed tech world, and definitely at Scholar Education, that's going to be something very important to us, and it is something important to us. I want to prove impact to my customers. I don't want to just make overreaching claims that we save X amount of time or we're doing X amount of engagement with students. I want to have proof for my customers and for my schools, and that's just coming from sitting in the schools of a school leader, or the seat of a school leader, and wanting that myself. So that wraps up our webinar series. I will remind you of a free AI champion course that we have. Again, this is not, it's created by Scholar Education, but it's not Scholar Education related. It is how to use AI in general for any user. And we go over how large language models work, what is prompt engineering, how to use prompt engineering, and give practical tips on how to use it with any tool. Of course, if you want to use Scholar Education, we'd highly encourage it, but that's not the purpose of the champion course. We also have an AI literacy course, and tomorrow is actually AI Literacy Day, and we've been doing this webinar series gearing up for tomorrow. So if you want to steal our AI literacy course and have a lesson plan for tomorrow, feel free to go to joinscholar.com. It is a completely self-paced course. You could do it collectively with your students, or they could do it individually on their own device. And join us in April for a live demo of Scholar Education. Follow us on social media for all of the information about these live demos so that you can learn more about how Scholar Education can be helpful to your classrooms and your schools. And follow us on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, we're everywhere. We have links here where you can scan the QR code for a live demo, join our waitlist as well. We are expanding. So currently we're in the state of Florida, but we are expanding outside of Florida as well. So if you are interested in being one of the first on our priority list, join our waitlist. And if you all have any questions about AI policy and ways that you want to get started, or if you would like some, more one-on-one support from me, feel free to email us at hello@joinscholar.com. That will come to me as well, and I will gladly support you in any way possible. Thank you for joining me on this series. I think that this is such an important topic right now, and I just wanted to help break through the noise and help in any way. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much.